Have you ever wanted a behind the scenes look at how I create my surface pattern design collections? Well, today I am going to be giving you that behind the scenes look. I'm going to take you through my process. In my last video, I talked about the benefits of designing in collections, and today I want to take you through the behind the scenes of me creating my Plan for Paradise collection, which is a collection of designs that are meant for planners or notebooks. And I created this collection alongside students for my Successful Licensing Collections Live course, and everyone was creating collections, and we went through all the steps outlined in the course. And now I'm going to show you what I came up with and how that process went. So here's a look at my design process overview. And this is something I go into way more detail in Successful Licensing Collections, but essentially what I do before I create as I create every design collection for my licensing portfolio are these general steps. So the first is decide on a theme, then I gather some references, I create sketches, and I also create a plan. I choose a palette. I start my rough drafts for my main print or my main illustration. Often if it's illustrations, there's not really a main. It's just they're all sort of equal, but it's just whichever one I decide to start with. If they are patterns, I then go on to my secondary pattern or my second illustration. I revise those and improve those, and then I dig into the other drafts. And then I pull everything together for cohesion and create a sales sheet. So let's take a look at what that looks like. As I said, I start with choosing a theme. So when I choose a theme, I go through and write down a couple different ideas of what I'm thinking. I go into how to choose a theme and where to look for ideas in Successful Licensing Collections. But for this video, I just want to talk about the process that I have for creating the collection, which is once I choose a theme, I make a long list of all the related things that might go with it. So this is me brainstorming for 3 different themes. A vintage retro Palm Springs idea, a hydrangea idea, and a ski lodge idea. So for the vintage Palm Springs, I wrote down all these things that I could think of that could go with this theme. Poolside motels, motel keys, 50s, 60s, 70s, umbrellas, bar carts, loungers, vintage bathing suits, desert flora, cacti, cocktails, old-fashioned, sunsets, vintage fonts and motel marquees, cabana stripes, palm trees, yellow swim caps, postcards, and pineapples. For hydrangea, I do the same thing, and for ski lodge, I do the same thing. I ended up choosing the retro Palm Springs. So then my next move was to create a reference board. So I dug into the Internet archives and created this board. I looked for a lot of references around fonts and colors and imagery that would get me inspired. I love this pink double-decker umbrella. I love this lounger. This kind of super retro style illustration is really fun. Of course, these signs and these fonts are great. I love this motel key. This image down here is really great. So this was what I created, and I was super excited about this reference board. So now I'm digging into my sketchbook, by which I mean my iPad, Procreate, and starting to plan. Now, I recommend that you always have an end product in mind, and so I wanted to do planners or like notebooks, stationery, basically. So I had done this little four rectangle thing to start to think about what kind of layouts would be good for notebooks. So I'm thinking imagery and wording are going to come together. So I started to create these, and I started to do these layouts, and then I just wasn't really sure. I was starting to get stuck because I was thinking, like, does it make sense that there would be, this vacation vibe when we're talking about planners? Planners are often about like getting things done. And so I was thinking, potentially something like the future is bright, because if it's bright sunshine and all that stuff, shine on, things about, excelling and moving forward, but with the idea of brightness behind it. I was trying to think of phrases that might make sense. Happiness looks gorgeous on you. This is like if you had a bunch of accessories and things. But truth be told, I was getting a little bit stuck on the concept of a planner and how that might relate to sort of this vacation imagery. Now, there's a couple ways that I could get around this. I could certainly go back to my brainstorming and think about, like, maybe I use a different theme, or maybe planners or notebooks is not the best idea for an end product to have as a goal for this collection. But I really did want to do this theme, and I really did want to do these end products. So I started thinking a little bit more. The first thing I did was do a little bit of research on what kind of planners might make sense with this type of look. So I looked for things that were in the market that might kind of go to the sort of style that I might like. So for example, this is like a garden design, and it isn't exactly Palm Springs, but we can think about how that could be translated. And I'm seeing that there's these big tropical things that work really well, and that makes sense. And then I really liked this planner by, Talking Out of Turn, which is kind of collagey and really fun, and it kind of hits on some different things and kind of looks like a collage. I thought that was really cool, and I definitely kept that in mind as I was doing some sketches. Then I also looked for actual, flora and fauna, not fauna, just flora, of what was actually happening in Palm Springs. So I looked for references for palm trees and palms and cactuses, and I also looked for this sort of vintage fabric look of, like, what kind of style might I use to create this design. So that was the beginning of me trying to really think of how this could work potentially for planners. And then I got back to the drawing board of what kind of phrases can tie together the idea of this vacation thing, but also moving forward, a shining, that kind of stuff. So time to shine, plan to shine, the future is bright, genius ideas. Now I'm just getting things out, right? And then I started thinking about how I really like that lounge chair look, and how the whole thing that I really enjoyed about this original reference board is this sort of poolside lounging, right? The poolside lounging is big here, and I really like that. And again, trying to connect that to the idea of planners. So the idea of resting and refreshing, of being better because you took some rest. So then I started thinking of silly phrases to make that: well rested can't be bested. Only my best when I get my rest. Always my best after lots of rest, right? I'm thinking, okay, rest and best, this could be good. Well rested and excited for the day. Rest to recharge. Work hard, rest well. Every day is an opportunity. Learn to rest, not to quit. And then I thought of give it my best, then give it a rest. And I really like that. I thought that was really hitting exactly what I was, what I wanted to do. Was going to tie together the whole idea of these, of resting but also giving it your best through planners. So with all that in mind, I came back to the drawing board and started thinking. And so these were some rough sketches for an idea for something with cabana stripes and with the fringe that we saw on those double-decker umbrellas, as well as some floral and palm leaves and everything like that, some botanicals. Then I have this poolside lounging, and I give it my best and I give it a rest. Then this one was sort of based on that sort of collage-y one. So I'm thinking like some sun, some cactuses, some palm trees, a pool, and plan to shine. And then I really like this motel key thing. So every day is an opportunity with like the key seemed like a good fourth design. So this was my super roughs, and then I get more refined sketches. So this is what I'm thinking for the cabana stripes one. Give it my best, then give it a rest. Every day is an opportunity. And plan to shine. So now it's time to dig into palettes. So I like to pick my palette before I create my rough drafts, because I like to see things in pretty colors as I'm designing. It helps me to get over, get over my anxieties about things not looking so great. If it's in good colors, at least that part is good, right? And then we can work on how the drawing and all that comes along. So to create this palette, I first put out all my sketches here so I could remember exactly what I was thinking. I put out my original Palm Springs board, and I also got a couple more images. And then from that, I really just used the eyedropper and sort of mixed together some of those colors and put together this palette. So just taking from what I have here. We have some grass, green, we have some blues for the pools, we have this yellow bright sun, and then these kind of rusty sunset colors, and plus this really fun pink. So, and tans and sandy colors. So now I'm ready to dig into my rough draft. And so I did this in Adobe Illustrator, but I'm showing you here because I took a bunch of screenshots as I developed so you could really understand. So I start with my sketch here, and I'm filling in the basics. On my artboard, I multiply, and I set the sketch to multiply, and then I make the opacity really light, and I start filling in the basic shapes. So this, first I did some of these bigger, these foreground shapes, and I also did some of the background shapes, and then putting that together this is what I had for that. And then I wanted to look at the palette again. I decided I had that original palette along the bottom, but I decided I really needed a darker color as well. So I had that dark brown that I added. And so that's where I added in the lettering, but also this darker brown. And then that made me want to play with trying some different layering with the backgrounds. So this was me playing with that. Then I tried some textures. I had decided I didn't really like that dark brown there. So, but I started to play around with textures. I decided I liked the texture in the background, but I wanted the cactus to be a little bit more not so textury. But I did want to refine the round cactuses because I had them really, really basic at first. So I got them more refined here. And then I filled in those trees, and then I made those trees, those palm trees, a little bit more refined as well. And then I was at this point and I thought that it was okay, but the truth was that while the original intent was to make this into a sort of collage-y effect, and that's why the palm trees are in the front and the bigger cactuses in the back, it looks too much like a scene. And so it wasn't working that the palm trees were in the front. So I switched things around, and this was my first draft where it looks a little bit more like a scene, where the palm trees, the cactus is in the front, and that makes a little bit more sense. So this was my first draft. Then I continued on working through each one, and let me just show you. This was my first draft for this design, and these were me working through the next two. So now I hadn't finished this one, as you can see, but this was a stopping point that I got to as I was creating. And I only had this original sketch for this, but I wanted to stop and look at it as a collection to see if it was working together. And I wanted to choose what the background color was going to be. So I stopped here and I played with a couple different rectangles, solid colors. I tried the blue, I tried the pink, I tried the yellow, I tried pretty much the whole palette. And the orange was the one that balanced the best, and I liked that one the best. So this was where I landed at first with this print. But when I put it into the collection, this was the finalized version of this, it looks kind of plain, right? There's a lot going on in all of these, and it is nice to have something that, in your collection that is a little bit more simple, but it didn't quite work. And so I played around with some different options. I tried cabana stripes. That was a little too busy. You couldn't read very well. This one was okay. This one I was liking better. There was me refining that. And finally, that is where I landed. So this is what I landed on for my final collection. And I liked how this all works together. It's balanced. And now as a planner collection, realistically, a planner is most likely going to be either these are going to be licensed. Hopefully these are licensed. If they're licensed, it's not that there's going to be 4 planners that all have these covers and would be a collection. What might happen is one might get chosen for a cover, and then some of the other art could be used either as coordinating notebooks, or it could be used for the inside of the planner, because often planners have tabbed pages at every month, and so each page, each monthly page sometimes needs dynamic art. So it could be that one is used for the cover, and then the rest are used for art for the insides, and then some of those icons and motifs can be used for stickers or for decorating the pages or whatever. So there's a lot that can be done. I wouldn't expect this to be for matching planners. That's probably not going to happen, but I created them all as possibilities for planners, but they could work for notebooks, they could work for other things, and then I can use these pieces for other parts of a product line. And then finally, I put it into a sales page. So I'm putting my name on it, my information, and giving everything a file name. And I like a little mock-up to show what exactly I was thinking when I designed these. So that is me taking you through the entire collection process. Not super detailed because this isn't a whole deep dive class, but like I said, Successful Licensing Collections gets even deeper into this process. If you're curious to get a more in-depth look at this process with lots of additional examples from my portfolio, as well as additional resources like lists of popular themes, where to find trends, and guides to self-assessing your work to make it the strongest design possible and also the most cohesive collection possible, check out my course, Successful Licensing Collections. In it, I teach the step-by-step process for designing art collections perfect for products for the gift, stationery, and home decor markets.